Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2. My name is Jason, the creator, and tonight I want to talk to you guys a little bit. I'm getting ready to release this latest version. It's a massive update. There have been a lot of changes, a lot of updates over these last couple of weeks. I do apologize, I've been kind of laying low for a little bit. I did have a move, I had a couple of little life things that did come up that really slowed me down for a little bit. Work has been crazy, but I did finally get a chance to come back to the mod and really start hammering away at some of these new features. There's been some ongoing development for the last couple of weeks now that I haven't really shared with everybody yet, but let me tell you, it's been crazy, but I'm super excited to show you guys kind of what the latest and greatest changes are, and I'm going to go ahead and dive in and talk about some of those changes. Some of them will not be coming in this latest version, only because I want to try to do kind of a due diligence and take the time to make sure that these systems are working as expected. So they will get released to the premium or to the Patreon supporters. Again, huge shout out. Thank you guys so much for your support. Truly appreciate it. Thank you for helping keep this mod alive and continue to give me feedback for the mod. So some of these changes come in the form of map changes. We do have full access to the map now thanks to the Techland's support and getting us those editor tools. It's not as easy as I would like it to be, but it is achievable, it is doable. It just takes a little bit of know-how, and so let me show you guys some of those new improvements. So on top of that, over 100 new ranged weapons. So I went back and I started to use kind of a use case and say, okay, what's a weakness in the game as far as the weapon systems go? What's something that across all the different mods out there that could go long-term longevity that would really support you guys as you're continuing to play, and for a new experience, a new run-through, what would give you kind of a new approach? Well, one of the things that's kind of missing from the original game, at least early on, and with some real balancing, were the bows and arrows and the crossbows, and of course the new flamethrower. So I went back and started going through everything and kind of reviewing what had been done so far, and started asking myself, okay, so if I could get you guys one update to the weapons, where would we start? Well, going into the files, watching these updates roll, I will say that I have plans for firearms coming up. I know a lot of people have requested access to these firearms, shotguns, pistols, rifles. But I will say that I've always wanted to try to keep this mod, community focused and make sure that, Big Brother, Techland, doesn't have any issues with early content getting released. And so instead of turning immediately towards firearms and saying like, okay, how could we, get in there and change things with pistols, I wanted to go in there and actually update things with the weapons that were currently available. So I've added some new balancing that I think you guys will really like. So first and foremost, let me start this tour with a new and improved bazaar. So it's still an active development, but I have gone through and really started to look at how can we utilize this first initial playthrough area and actually, appreciate that area a little bit more, and then also work to reinforce and defend it. So right now the bazaar is kind of one of those locations where you're like, okay, early on it's fine, it is what it is, and then let's move on to the other areas of the city. I really wanted to go back and say, okay, if we wanted to actually make this area more interesting, if we actually wanted to make it more diverse, have more changes, if we wanted, bases to become under attack, if we wanted to work on several features that are coming here for I Am Legion here in the future, how could we start by first affecting change on the map itself? And so a lot of people have already been asking, well, how can I start to get this custom content? How can I start to enjoy it naturally in the game? Well, that's where the first part of this comes in. So first and foremost is a trader overhaul. So I have gone through the bazaar and made several changes to the bazaar itself, including new traders. So as you travel across the bazaar, you will start to find more traders, and these traders will change over time. So I am continuing to look at how they can start to provide access to some of these newer items and some of the more custom things from the mod, while also kind of keeping a more natural flow. I'm not looking to really provide anything in way of like cheating or anything like that, but I really wanted to provide more access to some of the new custom content while also keeping with some of the lore that's already built into the game. And that's where I'm starting to bring in these custom traders into the map and change the world itself to really support them. Sadly, as I've continued to progress down this road, I will say that with certain parts of the map, this is easier than others. And one of the reasons that this has still stayed very experimental is because as I've done this, optimizations have changed. So as I've started to play around with changing the map itself, I've started to actually get more optimization issues. And so because of that, I really wanted to kind of slow things down and take my time reviewing this system and making sure that this system really was one that I wanted to establish in the game that would actually be an improvement to the game and not cause too many optimization issues. Because obviously I want to keep that in the forefront, is that we want as many people to be able to enjoy the game as possible without actually causing them more issues. And so because of that, as you can see here, I've kind of started with this first initial update, which is called Man the Walls, which is the idea that you would actually want to defend the base, that you would actually want to take the time to protect this base and actually use some of the base's defenses to be able to hold off a chase or an incoming wave. And so the idea here is that I did have to like make some slight changes, but originally with this one wall here, you couldn't even like really get close to this thing without it hurting you. You couldn't get access to the towers. And so first and foremost, I wanted to get access and guards across these different towers and make this base one that you could start to chain your experience with. If you actually wanted to parkour through this base, what would that look like, and how would you be able to use these systems to be able to defend the base, but then also enjoy the base instead of it being kind of a closed off experience. So the vanilla game has a very, you can only walk around the church kind of approach to it. I'm now going in and actually going area by area inside the space and trying to add custom content that makes it feel a little bit more like an actual area that you would want to defend or is being defended. I think that was always something that was such a big deal with the survivors for me, is that it kind of seemed like they were holding, church-like vigils in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, out undefended in a common area, and it didn't really make any sense to me. So I was working really hard to try to eliminate a lot of that information inside the system to where they were no longer spawning these groups outside the base. I mean, here's the group that I'm mainly talking about. You have this group that's outside the walls that's, completely open to the zombie apocalypse, that in the original game are not even well enough defended to be actually outside of the walls. For the most part, they probably shouldn't be outside the walls. So I wanted to create this concept of like, well, okay, so what if we started creating areas that made the base feel a little bit more defended, made more sense for them being up on rooftops? How could I start to kind of chain those different locations together to make that safe for the survivors, but then also difficult to pass for the volatiles, for the different zombie groups? And so my approach to that is lots of barbed wire, lots of defenses, while also making these areas that humans would want to traverse, but would not, that the zombies wouldn't be able to immediately access. And so the idea here and the hope is that as you're actually running outside the wall, if you want to be able to quickly get inside the base and move around, there are more ways for you to quickly gain access and get inside the base, especially if you're being chased, and those areas will continue to get defended as you go. And I'll continue to work on this concept of having guards able to actually give aid while you're outside the base. So in addition to this, I'm continuing to look at other areas that did not have a ton of support before. I'm actually not sure what that is. Very interesting. It was like a physics glitch or something there. But on top of going and redesigning some of these locations, this is a little bit more tedious and takes a little bit more time. And so on top of slowly progressing this, how this will be coming to the mod is that I'm going to be setting this up so that if you want to enjoy this content, it's an optional. It's not a required feature of the mod. But if you do check that optional box, you'll be able to enjoy this new custom content. And then if you have feedback, if you're having issues with frames, you know, other challenges, you can give feedback and let me know how that's going. Obviously, this was going to be more experimental and not something that, you know, I'm necessarily pushing as part of the overhaul, but something that I want to encourage new growth, new gameplay, and something more interesting inside the game for you to enjoy. So switching back to the ranged weapons. So the ranged weapons, as I mentioned before, so first and foremost, it is the flamethrower, it's the crossbow, and it's the bows and arrows. Well, I didn't feel like the bows had really, I mean, even the crossbows had two variations of the crossbow, really only one crossbow that you would get inside the game, and then the bows only had 9 versions of the bow, standard, and then with the DLC content you get access to one more bow, so 10 bows altogether. I'm happy to announce that with this latest update you should have access to 64 new unique bows, and I believe the total number was 49 new crossbows. We still have the total number at 7 flamethrowers, but I've been working really hard to try to identify opportunities to make use of other systems, to expand that flamethrower system. A lot of this latest effort was looking at the concept of creating the lightweight flamethrower, which is the one that you guys know and love, which is this flamethrower that I'll grab here. So that's this flamethrower. So this would be kind of considered the more lightweight flamethrower. Let's see here. And actually I had all of this set up earlier to where I had weapons working in here, but then it ended up causing issues with the sleep system, and so I'm still trying to work on bringing that system online to where those two things work side by side. But you are aware of this version of the flamethrower. It's utilizing the makeshift shotgun that they have in the game, but I actually really like this model because it actually has the gauge over on the side there, which actually fits pretty well for the flamethrower. So I've been pretty happy with that, but I've started working on the concept of a heavy flamethrower, and that's using some of the models that are hidden away in the code, and some of you may have seen it through other mods, but I'm really working to try to make that unique to the flamethrower use case, and then also try to create the concept of a heavy flamethrower that may limit your mobility but allow you to spray, you know, tons of flames into buildings to clear areas, and still working hard to try to bring those weapons to the actual NPCs as well. So that's still something that's being progressed. But to switch over to the crossbows and the bow system, let me also very quickly share out. I didn't get a chance to share with the Discord community that I'm live right now. Let me go ahead and share. Sorry everyone, just wanted to make sure to share that. And so let's get back to this. So that was where the flamethrower was really left off. It was that it was a lightweight. It had a couple of different versions that you could upgrade. Hey Kaka, thanks for joining. And so as you continue to progress, you would get better versions of that flamethrower. That is currently being reworked. I'm trying to make use of the tier system and continue to reshape how the flamethrower comes into the game. So there's soon to be more updates with that. But let's move on to the changes with the flamethrower, or not the flamethrower, but the crossbows and the bows. So this next effort was one that was made to try to expand this system to give you more options in play style along with the weapons. So with each one, I'm trying to look at a way that we can say, what is my play style and what weapons am I finding in the loot system, so that even though you're just finding a bow, you're also finding new play styles or new methods of playing the game and enjoying the game. So my solution to that is to create three different play styles with the bow. So you have the concept of a heavy fire power draw bow, which the idea is that it fires slower, but it does more damage over time. You have the rapid fire bow, which is used to fire a number of arrows very rapidly, but you have a loss on accuracy and then also the condition of the bow. And then you have the idea of the precision or the balance bow, which is a combination of attributes across both, but doesn't really blend in. It doesn't lean more into the rapid fire or the power draw. It more is a blend between those two. Hey, great, thanks for joining, and thank you for letting me know. I believe that's due to, let me check my streaming here to try to make sure. Hopefully that's working a little bit better. I did notice that I was playing around with some reshades and everything, and so, let's give this a shot. Let me know if this quality is a little bit better. Thanks for letting me know. So for those three different bow types, let me show you guys what that looks like. In concept, you still have that idea of the starter bow bundle. So for everyone who's not a Patreon supporter, you'll get immediate access to the starter bow right from the get-go. And then this is what it should look like as you're traversing the world. These have been added to the loot system. So as you're traveling around the world, you will see that more of these bows will start to enter. I'm going to go ahead and hit this bow bundle and stand by to see how many bows have been added to the game. So these are just the standard bows that you'll find inside the world, and then on top of that, I'm also going to add the legendary bows as well. So let's switch over to the inventory. So you can see here, these are all the new bows that have now been available. Like I said, it comes together with all the different variations, conditions, legendary versions. It comes to about 63 new bows being added to the game. All of these are meant to have a unique play style and to give each their own special attributes that will give you a better play style or experience based on the style that you want. And also, I'm continuing to get some feedback here. Let me take 1 second to check my audio, and then thank you so much for letting me know, Kaka, that there's some issues there. Is this a little bit better? Interesting. Okay, well, give me 1 second. Let me try to fix this audio quality. Obviously, me sitting here giving all this information isn't helpful if I have static. I just switched that over to where it should be filtering out some of that. It looks like it switched to the raw microphone on me. Is that a little bit better on your guys' side? Awesome. All right, thank you guys for letting me know. I'm glad I didn't do the entire stream with the audio messing up. So thank you guys so much. So as I was mentioning with the different types of bows, so the idea is three types: rapid fire, precision, and also the power draw. Each one has their own legendary version. For some reason, there is a very interesting color scheme tier issue with the bows to where if you find them naturally inside the world, they do get their color properly assigned, but if you're using the Patreon support bundle, that you do end up with these all white bows, but for some reason the color is working, and actually after testing it was kind of interesting. A lot of these standard bows that they already had built into the game were also showing up in this way as well, and so I'm not sure if this is where they just didn't have a lot of these bows added to the games previously, and all of them showed up as white bows, or the way they were being spawned in the world, it upgraded them to different ones. But this system seems a little bit different, but I do promise you, if you find them naturally inside the world, the color is working properly, so those should work a little bit easier. But let me go ahead and dive in and show you what these look like. So for each one, I've tried to go through and clearly say what their perks are, along with what their attributes are over time. So as you're finding the different bows throughout the world, you should be able to very quickly see what the differences are between the different ones, and be able to select the one that you want to continue to use. So let me grab a couple of here. We'll grab a couple of the legendary bows, and then we'll grab a couple of the lower tier as well. So we'll actually grab the pipe bow because that's one of their default bows, and then we'll grab my swift shot and then the power draw as well. All right, let's go do some target practice. And for those of you just joining, a lot of these efforts of the last month or so have been getting access to the map, going in and modifying and changing. We do have access to that now, and so there is a new optional that will be coming soon that will allow you to redefine how the bazaar looks and behaves over time, and looking forward to getting your guys' feedback on that. So if we wanted to go off that idea of defending the walls here, as I've kind of started to set up and establish for the player, let's go ahead and grab some of our bows here. And you can see this is actually one of the bows that was found in the world, which is why it actually has the color. It's an interesting one. So we've got the power draw, 3 and 9, and then we also have the swift shot, and then we've got the balance bow. So the balance, I'm still continuing to go in and name or give the stats and everything for those, and so that information will be coming here shortly. But they should have right now the same visual style, so I am going to continue to expand the system to give them custom visual styles as well. But the idea here is that the power draw, as you continue to upgrade it, it will continue to lose some of its restrictions on the speed, and basically you'll continue to be able to fire faster as it gets better, while maintaining the amount of damage that it does. So it actually does a good amount of damage once you find that legendary tier, and those, as I mentioned, have been added to the world, so you'll have to find them added to the world, and they also do much more reaction damage here. So as you're traveling through the world and firing this, it's actually a lot of fun to hold off these incoming enemies with the power draw bow. It did take a good amount of time to balance these, so in between the power draw and the swift shot, basically with these bows, the power draw bow does have the ability to penetrate one zombie and go into the other. Let's go ahead and switch over to the swift shot so you can see the difference here. The swift shot bows also do less damage, so getting that perfect headshot does count with the swift shot, but it's not always a guarantee. Also with the arrow recovery, that's actually been a lot of fun to go into the world and actually take down these zombies and continue to get your arrows back. So it looks like this one, so I've had some interesting results with the damage. So a few people have reported some interesting issues with the flamethrower and damage not working properly. I have started to see this same issue with some of the damages, and so as you can see with this one zombie, it looks like that has continued to be an issue for that one type of bow, and so I have to make some changes and fixes here before that's released. But I promise when that version gets released here tonight, this version will work a lot better, and you guys will have that damage working properly. That was fixed overall for the flamethrowers, and so that should be a lot more fun to take those flamethrowers into the world. But basically the idea here is I wanted to give you guys some fun bows to actually start running through the city with, even early on, getting these lower tier versions of the bow as you're a lower tier. So right now I'm playing with a high tier bow, but also at a low tier level. And so kind of the idea here is that you can do it, but your stamina and everything really doesn't back using a bow unless it's higher quality. So as you're using something like a power draw bow, you can still use it, obviously. It's going to take a lot more stamina, a lot more time to fully draw that weapon to get its full damage and damage on these zombies. I'm still enjoying using the mic and talking to you guys about the updates while playing, but it does become difficult sometimes to balance the two. So I do apologize for the on and off, and I am starting to look into dubbing the videos here in the future, so that way it's not as jerky here while I'm trying to talk to you guys about these systems. So right now it looks like the Swift Shot does look like it's having a damage issue, so I might have to double check that, so I apologize not having that available right now to show. As you can see, it's not really doing its full level of damage, and so I'm going to continue to balance that here before tonight's release. So those have been added naturally to the world, so obviously archers and everything are the best place to get access to arrows, crossbow bolts, new hardware, but I'm also trying to look at randomly spawning these into dark zones and other locations, so as you play the game you'll naturally stumble across these different ones. And so you can look forward to finding these bows as you continue to play through. Kaka has a question on here, so he's asking about legend levels. Yes, as of the latest update, you should be able to play legend levels as a mod. I know there was a bug that one and continue to look into that, but that should be fixed also by the time that this version comes out. So switching over really quick, let's look at the crossbows. So the crossbows are a little bit more fun than the bows. I love the bows, but when I start working on the crossbows, obviously the crossbows do way more damage, are way more fun to use than the standard bow, and so let's go ahead and pull those out as well. So the same is true that, again, if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll be able to get the legendary crossbows immediately along with the standard crossbows. There is the standard crossbow bundle as always, and so if you're not a Patreon supporter, you'll also get immediate access to a beginner crossbow, and those have been added to the world as well. So once again, scrolling down here, so as I mentioned earlier, it's about 49 new crossbows, each with their own name and stats. So the idea here is, again, you have 3 different classes of crossbows. You have the ironclad crossbow, which is about stability and being able to punch through your target at a longer range because it's more, it has better strength and conditions to the stock. Then you have the rapid fire crossbows, which can put more bolts down range, but they also lose accuracy. And then also you have the marksman crossbow, which the marksman crossbow fire a little bit slower. They have less bolts, but they do more damage over time, better accuracy, and they're also able to fire over long distance. So for each one of these types of bows, you'll notice that each one has the new idea of condition. So for each one, they have a weak, used, and new or legendary tier. So even though you're finding one that has the same name, you can also find different conditions of that unique crossbow. And so as you continue to travel throughout the world, you'll be able to find more of these different unique crossbows. And hopefully, if you're starting to find the legendary versions of the bows, this is where they're unbreakable, they hold more ammo, reduced recoil, and durability is kind of the idea here. So as you're finding the better weapons, so if you find, for example, a weak version, you'll still get the same pack and the same punch. The difference is that it will break over time. Then as you find the used versions of the bow or the crossbow, it will be able to take more damage over time before it breaks. And then if you find the legendary tier, it should never break. So you should be able to get also legendary perks associated with each crossbow. So for each one, I've started to go through and add slight variations and changes to every version of the legendary crossbows that are based on the same information that you're getting from its custom name. I see right here there's also a bug where my unique descriptions are not coming through on this side. So again, I'll make sure to fix that issue before releasing over to your guys' side. Not sure why those descriptions stopped working, but as you can see for the bows, each one has its own unique description, and the idea is that within that description, it's telling you about that weapon and what its strengths and weaknesses are. And so that will also be available for the crossbow as well. As you can see, I've tried to include quite a bit of information. So here's an example of one of the standard bows and its description, and then next is mine. So those are continuing to come down the road, and they'll continue to get better. This is still early stage, so again, over 100 new ranged weapons. Everyone, I've tried to go bow by bow, crossbow by crossbow, and balance these in. Some things may slip through. Please give your feedback. Please continue to let me, design for you guys to make this a better experience. I don't want anybody getting frustrated by these weapons. So let me go ahead and grab some of these new crossbows, and we'll show you guys what these are like downrange. Also, it looks like the color issue. So there's still a couple of more things to iron out. I've got a couple of tier 1 showing up as violet. So still a couple of things that I'm working on, but those fixes will be coming here before release as well. Kind of running through the hits as we go here. Let's go ahead and grab that last one. So again, as the bow and arrow earlier, so it's the same kind of concept where looking to try to create a play style with the use of each crossbow. Sadly, I don't have the ability to give you custom models for each crossbow. I wish that I could, hopefully here in the future. As we continue to go, more of those options will hopefully be made available. But right now, it's just trying to get custom balancing and custom attributes across each one so that you can enjoy kind of the perks of having each one. So the titanium piercer is the legendary version of the ironclad crossbow. As you go higher with the crossbows, they become automatic crossbows. Early tier should be single shot. You have to punch each time. Automatic crossbows obviously fire much faster, but you do take some loss to accuracy, except unless you're using the Hawkeye's automatic crossbow, which gives you more precision. So let's go ahead and start with one that you've probably seen before. So the Vulcan is a modified version of the rapid fire that you guys had access to earlier on. You will be able to find this one in the world, and it is actually a ton of fun to clear the streets with. I've also really enjoyed seeing how many bolts we can get actually added to the wall here. It's really difficult to make sure you don't do friendly fire. As you can see there, I just took down a friendly survivor, which is probably not going to play well with the base right behind me. But as you start to get higher level, and you really want to just enjoy clearing the streets and building ammo, this is the bow to use. So let's continue around the corner here and see if we can find some bigger groups. Again, I'm at a low tier, fighting against low tier zombies right now. Yeah, I did upset the survivors. And so because of that, obviously I could probably just sit here and clear the street by firing down range a little bit. And at the earlier stages, you also can't aim, and so this is again where that play style comes in handy of being able to say whether or not I want a precision crossbow or whether or not I want rapid fire. So to be able to make those close combat shots and always get that headshot. as before, it's the same idea. The stronger one is the Ironclad. The Ironclad can do more damage, so you'll get more of a kickback from using this one. And so the physics should react a little bit stronger with this crossbow versus the others. So, for example, the rapid fire crossbow does less physics damage as you're putting down so many bullets per second, you know, that it's not able to establish a true punch. Let's go ahead and switch over to the Hawkeyes. So the Hawkeyes, again, is about precision. So you have increased headshot damage. As you can see there, make very short time of these enemies just by getting that headshot. Also better for conserving ammo. See if you get really good at just shooting on the fly here. And I know for me, I'm super excited about using these weapons more on the standard, because it reminds me very much of playing with like throwing knives. That idea of being able to shoot these bolts downrange and then go and retrieve them is actually super exciting. So same with the arrows and the bolts. There was a crafting issue with the arrows that's also been fixed. But then in addition, there's this idea of being able to find these broken bolts. So as you're going through, as I just picked one up, you can find these broken crossbow bolts. You'll also be able to find broken arrow shafts as well. So with some basic crafting supplies, you should be able to upgrade those and turn them back into working bolts and arrows. And so the idea is that you currently can use that starter kit that's provided with you inside your stash. So if you use your starter kit, you'll immediately get that crafting recipe. If you are just playing the game and you have already used that starter bundle and you didn't get it for whatever reason, you'll also be able to find that on the traders as well. And so more of those traders have now been made available in the bazaar, and that actually might be coming soon depending on my testing here tonight. Again, trying to make sure that I don't break anybody's playthrough and continue to get everybody's feedback and information. So again, the new map changes will probably go to the Patreon supporters first for now, just so I can make sure that system is working correctly, and also put a big caution sign on that. But as I'm continuing to get these features ironed out, I will try to make those a little bit more shorn up, so that we can start doing some more fun playthroughs and some more interesting things with these bases. So let's head on back inside, and I'll talk to you guys about another system that I've been working on. So one of the big things with the playthrough is this idea of like, oh, well, hang on, you know, the loot system. So the loot system is very much kind of set up in a way to where you really only find certain things in very specific places. You really get to know the different lootable locations over a period of time, and those are more gen pop kind of loot. So I wanted to try to upgrade those without changing things too drastically. So what I've done is go through and drastically improve the number of containers and the number of specific loot items you can find in the world. So as you travel through the world, you'll now be able to find, you know, if you are looking for rags, finding a big thing of rags on the floor is where you'll find rags. If you find a battery, if you find other things inside the world, you have a small % chance of actually getting that object from those different containers. And so I've tried to go through and make those as accurate as possible, and then also make them very obvious to the ones that are like scrap based or more common items, so that way you're not filling up your inventories on things that you don't want. But you can kind of use your judgment as you're going to kind of decide if you actually need those supplies or not. All in all, I think it's about, I apologize for the cough there. All in all, it's about, I believe, 26 new containers added to the world. And so as you're traveling around the world, make sure to take a second glance and see if there are more lootable items outside of the world for you to start gathering. These systems are kind of finicky. They're kind of interesting, where they essentially
baked the entire world, which meant that they baked everything out to where it would be more optimized for the place that. But at the same time, it also baked all of these containers. So as I'm going through and actually establishing these different containers in the world, some of them are not working in specific areas, nor are the changes to the areas due to this baked map concept. That's where I'm starting to actually go and break some of that baked system and actually redefine and redesign the worlds, but only while trying to maintain that actual ability in that area. I'm also trying to make sure I'm not breaking things by doing. And so it's been kind of a trial by fire, kind of testing as I go. System saying, okay, what's an area I can afford to the bake and try to change things and kind of go through and say, okay, let's give the place some new content, give them new search and on the app while maintaining the same experience. So, and with some of my change to now I'll get through as well where there's less modifications to the customs and those changes are more to the open system. But then also can give you a better experience as you're playing through. So with these changes, I'm also going through and creating custom traders. I'm also trying to work with the trade system to where over a period of time they may have different items so that you're not getting the same items repetitively. I'm also looking at adding roaming packs, roaming traders to the world. So you have caravans as well. Those fighters will actually be able to fight, and if you can get them to stop long enough and defend them, they'll also be with you. And so there's a lot of exciting changes coming with the trade systems coming up, and that's kind of where this new crossbow system, new bows, flamethrowers, the new wolves faction, the world burners, the new virals, the new zombies. That's where all of this is starting to come together to where they're actually able to make it into the world without breaking things, without changing things. Process downs, but things are still progressing. I have been actively working on the roadmap as well, so the roadmap should be coming out shortly. That will include all the upcoming features, some of the things I'm more excited about to get you guys, but there are several feature systems that are continuing to be progressed. The base building is still active, the survival system is still ongoing development, the companion system is still ongoing development. I have so many ideas and thoughts for each one